trading deadline's over. Can't do it anymore. Although the new rule now,
You can play in the
leave
second semester, right?
you can leave anytime.
Right. But can you become eligible within the same season somewhere else? Like the second
Apparently, they said no,
semester? Yeah.
but
It'll work from there. But what if that new rule, you can't, if you play and then they overturn it again, then you forfeit all your games that the person played in.
that's right. And then they'll have another lawsuit, and they'll lose that one, and the
Yeah.
players will be reinstated. Right now, the players can say, I want to never go to class. I want, I want a credit card to my favorite jewelry store. And if the school says no, then they sue you, and they win. They've not lost a lawsuit in eternity. That's why it's such a shit show. You know?
So you had told us before that you didn't think Ayanna would be back this season. It just come to the point where this surgery was the best thing for her.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried everything since last season, and kept. You always want to make that the last resort, but this is something that's been ongoing with her since sophomore year in high school, and we thought we had a handle on it, and every time we thought we were making progress, the next workout that she would have, it wouldn't respond the way it needed to respond. So this was the last option, and hopefully the final one, and she'll be able to at least play games without feeling like how long is this going to last, which is what was happening before.
Geno, what do you think of Aubrey's body of work this season so far, and your thoughts on just what she'll need to give you the rest of the way?
If you watch Aubrey play, there's peaks and valleys of her performances. Sometimes in the same quarter, sometimes in the same game. Sometimes the peaks are higher than the valleys are lower, and sometimes the opposite is true. So, like everything else right now about our team, we're searching for a consistency that, if you got Easy not playing, you got Carroll not playing, and you're saying, okay, well, whoever we put in the lineup, then they've got to be able to be productive somehow, some way, and that's where she fits in. She's got to be productive some way, whether it's defensive transition baskets, whether it's offensive rebounding, things that she's well equipped to be able to do. It's got to be on a consistent basis. We're playing a small lineup because we're trying to find more scoring from the perimeter. We played in the Carolina game. We won that math equation, right? We outscored them by 15 from the three-point line, and we outscored them by 2 at the free throw line. So that's a 17-point swing for us, even though we got out-rebounded. Or maybe they shoot more more layups or something. I don't know. But that's going to have to be the way that we win. We're not going to offensive rebound you to death, and we're not going to block shots. We're not going to, So if she can help us, with our defensive and you saw the third quarter of the Carolina game, it all started with defensively and forcing some turnovers and getting out in transition.
How do you match up against Louisville?
Well, they have a pretty balanced lineup where nobody's getting 20 a night, but they're all getting between 8 and 12, So there isn't a let's load up on that kid and let's stop those 2 kids. There isn't that. And they try to force you to turn it over and play kind of a little bit out of your tempo, out of your pace. So I think we'll be fine if we take care of the basketball and we get the shots that we think we can get. But you know, the hard part is going to be keeping them out of the lane and keeping them off the backboard. So, you know, taking care of the ball, keep them out of the lane, keep them off the backboard as best we can, and then we got to knock in shots. That's the game plan.
How
Do you
different
prefer-
are they than how different are they now without Haley?
Well, you know, like we said, there was almost a definitive, this is who's going to get the ball late in the game, this is where the shots are going to come from. You know, I told Walls he screwed up that he only let her shoot it every other time she had the ball. He should have let her shoot it every single time. But, you know, she dominated the offense so much that, heck, they may, you know, they can be very dangerous when they can spread it around. So as much as I'm sure they miss her at times, I think they may have, you know, benefited from spreading it around more. That to me is the biggest difference I see.
Do you prefer Aubrey coming off the bench as a spark plug, or is it just going to become a matchup thing where you might need to start her?
It depends. It depends. I think you like to think that if you have, you know, if you've been here as long as Aubrey's been here, there's a known with this is what we're going to get when we bring you in. With a lot of the freshmen, younger guys, it's a tremendous unknown. So I'd rather know the unknown at the beginning of the game than when I sub. Because sometimes, you know, at the beginning of the game, they get it going a little bit, and you go, ooh. So it's a decision that you make, and sometimes you got to change it based on what you're trying to get accomplished. But I would like to think that she could be a great disruptor coming off the bench.
How is Caroline doing? Do you expect her to make the trip with you guys next week to Toronto?
No, she won't be making the trip to Toronto. That she hasn't been cleared to travel yet.
Gino, you've spent more time around Aubrey than any of these players now, 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't open up much around us, probably just because we ask stupid questions. I wonder what you've come to appreciate about her personality over the years.
Well, I think Aubrey really hasn't changed that much since freshman year. I think she's grown up, and she's done great in school, and she's, you know, well prepared for what comes next. But in terms of the kind of person that she is and what she believes in and what she brings every day, that hasn't changed. You know, she's just a kid that has, you know, she's a sensitive kid that wants to please, wants to make a big impact, and like a lot of kids today, they don't want to disappoint anybody. So sometimes they're not as risk-taking as I'd like for them to be, and that's an issue with I think a lot. Well, no, I don't think Paige has that problem, but that seems to be for a lot of these kids in Aubrey. I would, if I could help her anyway, I would try to help her be less thoughtful and be less concerned with, you know, with things she can't control, and just take the game, the part of the game that she's so good at, that can be good at, and just keep building on that. And I think her confidence level varies. It's sometimes very high and sometimes not so high. But it's not because she doesn't put the work in. But she's got to really soft, honest personality that, you know, every kid on the team feels connected to her. Everybody does.
How about 3 games in 5 days? It is what it is, but
Yeah.
do you change things or adapt with coaching from practice to games because of it?
Yeah, you have to, obviously. You know, we played Sunday, so you try to put out the schedule. You know, we played Sunday, we had off Monday, we played, you know, we practiced really, really, really hard on Tuesday. We had an off day on Wednesday. We went a little bit more Thursday. We tried to go a little bit lighter in pace today. Play tomorrow. Sunday, you're not going to be able to do hardly anything at all. Monday, you're going to play. Tuesday, you're not hardly going to do anything at all. It's travel day and all that, and you play Wednesday. So, might be our best 3-game stretch because there won't be any practice. So, you know, every kid, they love games, you know. So this might be the perfect scenario for them.
As you go into conference play now, what do you feel like you've learned to this point of the season? I mean, obviously, it's not what you had planned on going in, and
Right.
and I know you're still kind of trying to figure things out. But you figured out the small lineup is going to be it for now.
Yeah.
Anything else that you've really kind of learned?
You know, I went from June and September, or mostly June, thinking that offensively we could score as many points as anybody in the country. So I spent probably the whole month of September and October almost making sure that defensively we were really, really, really good. And it's like turns out that we can't score as many points as I thought we could score. So our defense has to be the catalyst for our offense. So there's been quarters, there hasn't been games, but there's been quarters that we've looked like the kind of team that could be really, really, really successful, not just in the Big East, but beyond. And, you know, in those quarters, it's because defensively we did what some of the stuff that we've been doing. It was because we were in attack mode and we were trying to, you know, make the game a little bit faster, get up and down the floor a little bit more, you know, take advantage of some mismatches and getting Paige more in the open floor and not letting teams be able to gang up on her in the half court. But it instead of it being just because our offense would be like that, it's got to be from our defense. And there's been quarters where we can't generate the kind of defense that I want, and then the offense is non-existent. So those are things that stand out more than anything. And the schedule that we've had has kind of exposed a lot of things that wouldn't have been exposed this early had we had a traditional college basketball schedule, you know. It's good and bad when you play the schedule that we play. I like it, but I do think it, especially when you're playing a lot of young players that haven't played, they get exposed in some way, and you hope that it builds character rather than, you know, it creates doubt. So to answer your question, I've learned a little, not a lot. And I learned that we're very, very inconsistent. That's what I meant.
With 2 double-doubles in a row, has Aaliyah figured out how she has to play as the lone big man, or is that still a process in the works?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot on the plate for Leah, and I think she led the team in shot attempts against Carolina, I think. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, and especially if if you shoot a high percentage. I like to see her get to the free throw line more because that means she's putting the other team's big guys in foul trouble. I think that her defensive ability is obviously there, and her rebounding is there, and now I like to see her finish more around the basket and start knocking in more of those 15-footers, because then that would put her in a place where she'd be really, really difficult to defend. And that's kind of the goal going forward.
What's been her biggest growth since her freshman year?
What's that?
What's been her biggest growth since her freshman year?
I would say that I think she has a better understanding of how offensive stuff flows. There's I think when you're young, you get the ball and you're unsure what to do with it. And I think there's a much more decisiveness about her. She gets it. She knows I'm going to shoot it. She gets it. I know I'm going to move it. She gets it. I know I'm going to attack the basket. Or I think she has a much better awareness of that. And having the experience that she's had playing both here and with her national team, I think has given her more confidence, which obviously should be a byproduct of playing this much basketball. But right now we probably need those 15, 17 footers to go in. And if they start going in and people they have to come out and guard her. I think she's really, really, really good at just getting to the basket. And I would hate to see her not be able to get to the basket because people don't respect her 15, 17 footers. So, there you have it.
How tough was it setting up this game in Toronto? Because you mentioned you had an opponent, then they lost their coach, lost the game.
Yeah,
So-
that prick from Pittsburgh, yeah. I can't say that publicly, but, yeah, it was easy in the beginning because we were able to find a team that had players from up there or had recruited players from up there. And then when that fell through, then it became very difficult because it was such a late. It wouldn't have been so difficult to say, well, we need one more game. Let's find that game. But hey, we need a game, but we need it to be played in Toronto. That's not the easiest thing in the world. So when it fell through, I mentioned that there's a school up there that traditionally is one of the better teams up there. And fortunately, they were all in. But so it was easy in the beginning. It was very difficult after we lost it. And I'm just glad that we were able to put it together.
Does the game count?
I mean, it counts on our record. I don't know that it has any effect on our net.
It's like playing a D2 or D3 team. It doesn't affect the net, and the stats will count to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Beginning of the season, I wasn't worried about our net. That was never an issue. I'm still not even worried about the net, even now. Your 3 losses are to teams in the top 5 in the country. So.
All the way from home.
So it's the net, and yeah, none of them have been at home, right? I mean, they've all been in crazy places on the road, and
Yeah, I don't think you'll be a bubble team. I think you'll.
Yeah, well, let's, you know, if this was EuroLeague men's basketball in Europe, you'd be gone.
Regulated.
5-3, you're out. 5-3, you're out. Or if this was the NHL, you're out. You know, so thank God, you know, we have an understanding president and AD. Giving me the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna,
Thank you.
I'll take 2 million and defer the other 700.